Have you ever gotten yourself a big project or a call from a big deal client and thought, oh, I don't think I have what it takes to take on this project? I hear this a lot. It's like, well, what if instead you got curious and asked yourself, what would it take to be successful with this project? Who do I need on my team? What do I need to learn? Run your business through a lens of curiosity, and you will expand and thrive and grow. I promise. Welcome to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald. If you're tired of one-size-fits-all advice to running your interior design business, you're in the right place. Join me each week as we dive into topics to help you run a thriving interior design business without the hustle. We'll talk about the business of design, but also mindset and mental health, because I know when you thrive, so will your life and business. It wasn't that long ago that I stepped away from my corporate interior design job to build my own design business so that I could realize my own creative dreams, have more time with the people I love, and serve my clients at the highest level while making more money than I ever could have working for someone else. It wasn't always easy, and I made my share of mistakes along the way. Fast forward to today, and I've learned a thing or two. Since then, I've built multiple six-figure interior design businesses on authentic word-of-mouth referrals with many repeat clients. And I want to share it all with you, the ambitious, inspired, and I get it, occasionally overwhelmed interior designer who shares this dream of transforming lives through the art of interior design. You can do this. Thank you for letting me spend part of this day with you. Let's get to it. Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Designer's Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Kate Bendewald. I'm so happy to be back with you, hanging out today. So thanks for showing up. Today, we are going to be talking about 3 mindset shifts that are really powerful. And these are mindset shifts that are, if you can start to develop these as habits, you will only see your business and your personal satisfaction with your career grow and thrive. And these are things that I will say first and foremost is something I'm constantly working on, right? It's not a place where you arrive to. These are things that we are constantly practicing day in and day out. But I truly believe that these are 3 mindset shifts that can help you grow a successful interior design business. It's about being expansive and taking up space as you navigate the complexities of working with clients, with vendors, with trades, with your staff, and of course, with your own personal relationship with yourself. So we're going to get into it. But before we do, just a couple of quick reminders. It's coming up real quick. The annual master planning workshop for interior designers is November 16th. I really want to see you there. This is the 4th year in a row that we've done this, and it has been a hit every time. And it's just getting better every year. So this is a 90-minute workshop masterclass where I'm going to help you to plan for the year ahead, plan for 2024. So I want you to keep in mind that if you are an existing member, if you're already inside the Interior Designers Business Blueprint, this is included with your program, with the membership. If you're not, you can join us. Go to designersoasis.com/plan to get access to this workshop. It is the one workshop each year that I open it up to the public. So we would love to have you. Our Dear Kate, our new advice segment is going to be kicking off soon. And so I want your questions. I want you to submit your questions to me, and I'm going to chat about them here on the podcast, either in my solo episodes or if I have a guest. I would love to pair some questions with some of our guest experts that are going to be joining us in the coming months. So if you've got a question that you would like to submit, anything really about interior design business, whether it's mindset work, whether it's how to deal with a tricky situation, how to do something, how to run something in your business, send it to me. Go to designersoasis.com/Dear Kate and send me your question. All right, let's get into it. So again, we were talking about the 3 mindset shifts that can help you grow a successful interior design business. The first shift is moving from being passive to being assertive. Let's dig into this a little bit, because I know that the word assertive can sometimes have a knee-jerk reaction. It can give maybe some weird vibes of, what does it mean to be assertive? First, let's talk about what passive behavior is. Passive behavior is the kind of actions or inaction that puts others in the driver's seat. It's the kind of behaviors that say, I'm just along for the ride. Why do we do this? We do this when we're afraid of what people will think. We do this when we're questioning our own authority. We're not standing in our space because we don't want to rock the boat, right? Women in particularly are socially trained to be sweet, to cooperate, to be good. And sometimes if you are assertive, you're a bitch. But if a man is assertive, he's a boss. And so we have to dismantle that. You may not agree with me on that, but that is oftentimes the feeling that women have when they are taking up space, right? At a meeting, in a social setting, in a professional setting. And so I want us to sort of retrain the brain about what it means to be assertive. Really, it's just showing that you care. You really, truly care about something. And I think if you can switch from thinking, oh, being assertive is going to make me disliked, and set that aside for a minute. It's like, well, when you really care for something and you want to fight for something, it's just showing how much you care. So the problem with passive behavior, if you're consistently letting others call the shots and manipulate situations, then your business and your life is going to lack predictability and control of situations. Am I saying that you can control everything? Of course not. There's so many things we can't control, but there's so many things that we can control, and especially when it comes to our reactions to things. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about a contractor that I had a long working relationship with for many years. When we first met, he was about maybe 15 to 20 years older than me. So he's been in this industry for a really long time, and he knows a lot. He really does. He is very smart. He's very good at what he does. And, he gets stuff done, and he knows that about himself. And he's a very confident business person and contractor for good reason. But the problem was that every time we had a phone call or a meeting, he would talk down to me. He would kind of treat me like a child and interrupt me. And I had to decide early on that I couldn't let that continue, because if I did, then that's how our relationship would always be. It would continue to be that way because I allowed it. And so very early on, I had to lay a new foundation with him, one that said, we're going to work together as a team, and we're going to talk to each other with respect. And I just simply said, hey, listen, I want to hear what you have to say, but you cannot interrupt me. You need to let me finish, and you may not talk to me like that. I expect you to be respectful to me. We're in this together, and we have, the same motivations and goals to have this be a successful project for our client. And the only way for that to happen is for us to be on the same team. And that's going to require you to shift a little bit how you talk to me. And he got it. And I was like, I was trembling inside. I had butterflies in my stomach now, just rethinking it. It was scary. It was not a fun conversation to have, if I'm being honest. I didn't know how he would take it. And I honestly, I didn't prep or plan for that conversation. It had just happened on a day where I was like, you know what? We got to nip this in the bud. I'm done. I'm just done. I'm not going to keep doing this. And so I'm grateful for that, because if I had sort of planned or rehearsed this conversation in my head, I don't know that it would have gone the way that it did, because there was a little fire in my belly when it happened. So anyway, his response was really great. I was grateful for that. He knew himself well enough. He was self-aware enough to realize, oh yeah, I do that to people out of habit. And I just feel like not a lot of people called him out on it before this moment. So I was grateful that he took it well, and he did shift. He did try to do better. To Did that mean that he was always 100% pleasant all of the time? No, of course, there were days where I'm like, oh my God, here we go again, but it completely transformed his expectations for me and his view of me and in our relationship. And so all in all, it was good. So the moral of the story there is, this was an opportunity very early on to set the stage for how I wanted to interact and how I wanted to work. And we have lots of opportunities to do this in our business. You can be assertive without being aggressive, without being an asshole. Okay. They're not mutually exclusive. So how else does being passive show up? Let's think about business development for a minute. Not following up. That is passive behavior. It is inaction. Think about anytime you've not followed up with a prospective client after you sent a proposal. Maybe it was a big proposal. Maybe it was something outside of your comfort zone and you were not sure how they were going to respond or react to it, or, if it was in alignment with what they were thinking. If you just let it go and you don't follow up, that is passive behavior. Thinking about not following up with past clients. I've had many clients over the years who've said, one of these days we're going to get to our kitchen renovation and we want your help, following up with them and taking action, being proactive, to think about who are the people in my world that I can reach out to actively and take the reins, take control, guide the conversation. Following up with prospective clients, if you sit around thinking, well, they'll just come to me when they're ready to do that kitchen renovation, they might sit and wait on it for 5 years unnecessarily because they're too busy to think about it, or they don't have the bandwidth to think about it. But maybe you get them on a good day and you've got all of a sudden a new project on your hands. So that has happened to me so many times in business where, just simply the act of following up sparked a new conversation, a new project, a new scope, whatever the case may be. Okay. How else does being passive show up in business? Making concessions for clients, making major concessions for clients. Of course, there's always going to be opportunity and time in business to be flexible. And I think being flexible is a very important aspect and asset and strength of a leader. But consistently making major concessions for clients is a problem. Maybe you have a client who asks you to modify or change something in your contract. Maybe they ask you to start working on a project sooner than you're ready because you're trying to wrap up some other projects. You want to give it your full attention and you give them a start date and they push back and say, well, can you start sooner? Sometimes you got to weigh the pros and cons and weigh the situation and only what is right in that particular moment. But if in your gut, you're just like, oh, I cannot make this work. It's going to be so difficult to get this started until we get past these other milestones with these other clients. If that's your feeling, but you still make the concession, you are setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment and a lot of stress and headaches. So putting your foot in the ground, putting your foot down sometimes, on things where you just can't make it work, is an important muscle to flex. And it gets easier with time, but I think really weighing those concessions thoughtfully, and not making it a habit that just simply because somebody asks you say, well, sure, I'll do that. Okay. This is another sort of passive sales technique. If we're thinking about that, thinking about when someone first initiates a conversation with you, if your call to action on your website is here, download my services and investment guide, versus here, book a discovery call with me, that is a passive approach to sales. Now, I'm going to pause for a quick minute and just say that there are nuances and exceptions to all of this. There was a period of time when, I was already consistently bringing in clients who were ideal clients. And that was something I'd worked really intentionally towards and I was confident in. And we got really busy and we had about a 6-month lead time for any new projects to start. It was in that moment that we temporarily swapped our call to action on our website. And we did put our services and investment guide first before booking a discovery call. And so that was an exception. And that was what we needed at that moment in time. But typically, I would suggest that your call to action is your discovery call, because otherwise you're putting the sales conversation, you're putting the sales responsibility on a PDF guide that you're sending them. And that is just never going to have as much effectiveness as having a one-on-one conversation with you in that discovery call. You can sell yourself way better than a PDF can. I don't care what's in it. Now, we like to send the PDF, the services and investment guide, immediately following the discovery call. So on that discovery call, we are engaging them. We're ensuring they're a right fit. We are putting them in the right service that we think is the right fit. And we're going to get a verbal, our goal is always to get a verbal yes to whatever the next step is, which is typically a consultation. And it's immediately after that discovery call that we send the services and investment guide to fill in the details. Does that make sense? Right. So a passive approach, if you're feeling icky, yucky around sales, is to put that discovery services and investment guide out first before the discovery call. Get your clients on the phone, get comfortable selling, and have those sales conversations. Side note, inside the Interior Designers Business Blueprint, we have an entire masterclass on selling and how to take the icky feeling out of it, because I know it's not natural for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea. It wasn't mine for a long time, but now I actually really love sales. So that's just an aside, but thinking about how you can be more assertive when it comes to your sales process is a really important mindset shift that you can start to take right now. Another one is presentations, thinking about when you are in a client presentation and you are selling your ideas, you're sharing the vision with them, and you get some pushback, right? You get some feedback that isn't, they don't like something, right? Of course, we never want that to happen, but clients are entitled to have their opinions. And I'd much rather have a client who's going to speak up and talk to me about that in person rather than taking it back with them. So in that moment, you have an opportunity to not just say, oh, okay, no big deal, we can reselect, right? Instead, you can say, well, tell me more. What is it specifically that that falls flat for you? And then shut up and let them talk. See what they say. Don't do like I do and over verbalize things. Nobody ever accused me of being succinct, but I've had to learn that for myself, is just shut up and let them respond and see what they say. After you hear what they say, consider to yourself whether, if they're not, sometimes clients might not be able to say why specifically. They may struggle to explain why they don't like something. That is a really good opportunity for you to explain why you made a specific selection. Well, thinking about materiality and what's around it, or how does it function, or the price point, or the lead time, or the materiality, its durability, whatever those assets of that selection was that made you put it in there, right? You've done the research. You are bringing them the absolute best possible selections for them to approve, right? You've put so much thought into that. You have an opportunity to sell your ideas, sell your selections to them. Use your judgment and decide, if somebody is just like, oof, they had a reaction to something that they just didn't like, don't worry about it, move on. Okay, let's get some feedback. And then that way we can provide you with the reselection that makes more sense. Or decide, no, you know what? I think this is really the right thing, and here's why. That's another way that you can start to shift in your business from a passive approach to how you engage with people to a more assertive approach that is confident and stand your ground when the time is right. Okay. You'll feel it inside. You'll know when is the right time to push back and when not to do that. Before I move on to the second mindset shift, I want to just tell you a quick story. It's a sales story that involves me and a client that I worked with. And I basically didn't take no for an answer. This is the moral of the story. But here was the situation. I had a client reach out to me who brought an historic renovation project, whole home renovation and addition and pop top. It was a huge project. And I love historic homes, and I wanted this project so bad. I knew the neighborhood. I loved the neighborhood. The house was charming. They had the budget to do the fun things that we wanted. But she had been working with a contractor so we got on a discovery call. She said, okay, yes, let's do a consultation. I was going to do my typical 2-hour paid consultation. I was just moving through the typical sort of steps. And I hadn't heard back. She hadn't booked the consultation after she verbally said on the phone she would. So I reached back out and I said, hey, I just wanted to check in. I'm really excited and would love to get the opportunity to have this consultation with you. And her response was lovely and kind, but she basically said, well, we've talked to our contractor and he's recommended a designer who he already has a relationship with, and we're going to just work with her. And my initial reaction when I read that, I was gutted. I wanted that project so bad. And it had been a while since I had gotten a project in that was really like yummy, like something I really wanted to sink my teeth into. And so I was super excited about it. And I thought it was gone. And I chose to not respond immediately, but instead I don't know if I slept on it or if I, waited till the end of the day or what. But anyway, I gave myself some time and something hit me and I thought to myself, no, I'm going to go get this project. Screw that. I want it. I'm going to get it. And so I sent a response and I, said, hey, I respect your decision. I've worked with a lot of contractors and architects and builders over the years, and I've had really great relationships with them. And I have no doubt that whoever you decide to work with it, I can build a good relationship with them too and make it, have a really successful project for you. I'd like to give you the opportunity, instead of doing the full 2-hour consultation, how about a 30-minute meet and greet? I'll come to your house, see the house, you can share, and it's complimentary. And she said, you know what? Okay, let's do that. And so I did. And I said, hey, I'd still love to give you a proposal. I've seen enough to be able to put something together that I think will work. What do you say? And she said, yes, in the proposal. Guess what? I got the job. Okay. And it was a super cool, fun project that we really enjoyed putting together. And it turned out that they were very good friends with some of our very good friends. So it all worked out. And we laughed at that. We just said, this was meant to be. This was meant to be. So anyway, my point is that is an example of how you can be assertive without being aggressive. You can just say, hey, no, I really want this. I really want this. And then go after it. Go get it. Okay. Moving on. Mindset shift number 2. We're going to talk about moving from a fixed mindset to having a habit of curiosity. All right. So people with a fixed mindset, there tends to be this undercurrent of negativity. You have a habit of saying or feeling, well, that's just the way it is. So here, how does this show up, right? You might find yourself saying things like, well, I'm just not good with money. I'm not good at managing my money. Or I'm not as good as insert the name of a famous interior designer. Oh, I'm never going to be as good as Nate Berkus or Kelly Wearstler or Jake Arnold or Anna Spiro or, fill in whoever it is that you really admire. Or you might say to yourself, I don't have what it takes to take on a project that big or of that size or of that substance. I don't have what it takes. The problem is when you find yourself stuck in this fixed mindset of that I'm not good at this, or I don't have what it takes to do that, or I don't know what it's going to take to blah, blah, blah. It prevents you from having the opportunity to learn from mistakes. Okay. A fixed mindset prevents you from having the opportunity to learn from mistakes. Mistakes are inevitable in any business, but especially interior design, where there are so many moving parts, right? We know this. The work we do is complex. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of players involved, and there's a lot of stuff to keep up with. So, the faster you can come to the realization that mistakes are going to happen, then you can start to move more confidently and just knowing that that's just a part of it. So what if instead you started to shift into having a habit of having a habit of curiosity? Building a habit of curiosity is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself and your business. So let's chat about this for a little bit. I'm going to tell you another story about a soured relationship that I had with a repeat client. So I had a client come back to me for the third project with them. I had already worked with them twice before in the past, and it was always good. Their personalities were a little bristly, but it was something that I always managed. I always navigated it just fine. They gave me a beautiful testimonial. They shared my name freely in this shared neighborhood Facebook group that we were in, and were constantly recommending me, and I was getting our clients from them. So our experience together had been good, even though personality-wise, they were a little rough around the edges in terms of their communication style that I'm comfortable with, but we made it work. Anyway, so they came back to me for a third project, and it's sort of a long story, but basically what ended up happening, the relationship went sour because we started to uncover, once we were already into the midst of the project, that their budget and their wish list were not in alignment. Their budget and their wish list wasn't in alignment. And I did so many things to try and find a solution that would work, that was based in reality, that was either, here are your options if you want to phase in some things so that you can get everything you want, but maybe it's not all at once. Or here are some scenarios where we could adjust the expectations for quality, or simply digging a little deeper and expanding your budget, right? I gave some different scenarios to them, and I said, any of these three options or a blend of these three options can work. We can make this work if you're willing to do that. And they were not willing. They were not willing. And we were at an impasse. And so the writing was on the wall, and I just, we were at a clean breaking point in the project where we had sort of presented all of the options, et cetera. And I just knew that there was no way for this project to be successful beyond this point. And so I was going to have to let them go. And it was a very, very difficult decision. With a fixed mindset, the response is, that's a them problem. It's their fault. They were inflexible. They, right? And don't get me wrong, there was a little bit of that was going on with me, but I had to take a step back with a little bit of curiosity and ask myself, sure, maybe that's true, but how did I contribute to this? I have to be really honest with myself with, how did I allow it to get to this? How did we find ourselves here? And when I really started to get honest with myself and look back at how everything played out from beginning to where we were now, I began to realize that I had made an exception to my design process, right? We talked a minute ago about making concessions for your clients. In this case, they didn't even ask for this. I just offered it. And it was this. So my typical process is discovery call, consultation, proposal, right? Because I had worked with them before and I thought I knew them, I thought I knew, like their style and what they want and more or less kind of where their budget range would be and their expectations for quality. After that discovery call, I said, you know what? I know exactly the space you're talking about. I've been in this house plenty and I understand it. And I felt like I knew enough that I could skip the consultation. So let's just skip the consultation and I'll give you a proposal. And I did. That meant that I did not have enough information moving into the project to be able to say to them, this all sounds good, but your wish list now is a little long for the budget that you're setting out. So what's going to give? Is it the wish list or the budget? It's got to be one or the other, right? I didn't have the chance to learn from that mistake because I didn't, to catch that ahead of time. I wavered in my process, a process that I have known for years works really, really well. And so I had to be honest and say to myself, that was on me. I screwed that up, right? So we broke up and we moved on and it was fine, right? It was a really tough lesson and it was so stressful. But the difference, again, in this situation, isn't the fact that I couldn't control that, but I was able to control my response to it because I was curious. And curiosity anytime you're dealing with a tricky situation, whether it's a bristly client, whether it's something that arrived damaged or broken, or whether you made a huge money mistake and you're trying to figure it out, start with curiosity instead of just throwing your hands up and saying, well, that's just the way it is. Okay. And when you're intentional about this and you start to make this a habit in the way that you think about things and the way you approach projects and challenges, then you'll start to reveal a lot of lessons that can help prevent these challenges from coming up again. Okay. A couple of other quick examples before we move on. Instead of saying, I'm not good with money, I'm not good at managing money, you can start to say, you know what? I'm learning how to manage my money, and I'm getting curious about where my bad habits developed. And that awareness is going to help me do things differently. Instead of saying, well, I'm never going to be as good a designer as so-and-so. Yeah, you probably are going to be as good a designer as Kelly Wearstler. But does that mean you don't have a seat at the table? Many of the most famous interior designers didn't even go to school for interior design, but that didn't stop them. Now, I'm just going to say real quickly, I'm not saying that a high quality education in interior design isn't valuable. I highly, highly recommend getting interior design education, no matter who you are or where you are. But you still have a seat at the table, even if that isn't the path you take. And I know many successful designers, I named a few earlier, who didn't go to school for interior design. Okay. You do have a seat at the table. There's a lot of room in this world for the work you do, the work you want to do. You don't need an invitation. You just need to step in. Okay. You put yourself in the role you desire. The world needs that thing you have. Okay. So you can start to just let go of that expectation, that fixed mindset that I'm never going to be as good as so-and-so. And you can start to get curious and say, yeah, I'm probably not, but I can have a seat at the table and I can learn and I can listen and I can be a sponge and I can absorb as much as I can. And I can hire people to help me do the things I'm never going to be good at. Okay. Have you ever gotten yourself a big project or a call from a big deal client and thought, oh, I don't think I have what it takes to take on this project? I hear this a lot. It's like, well, what if instead you got curious and asked yourself, what would it take to be successful with this project? Who do I need on my team? What do I need to learn? And start asking yourself questions and run your business through a lens of curiosity, and you will expand and thrive and grow. I promise. I absolutely promise. And I will die on that hill. Are you ready to make 2024 your best year yet? Are you ready to stop flying by the seat of your pants and move into the new year with intention and clarity? If you're ready to escape the feast or famine cycle, don't miss my upcoming masterclass, the annual Planning for Interior Designers Workshop. This is the 4th year I'm hosting it, and it's going to be better than ever. Join me live on November 16th for this interactive, power-packed workshop. The truth is, most successful interior designers are the ones who can cast their vision and then make a plan to get there. But that's not always easy to do on your own, and I want to help. I have dedicated my career to helping interior designers build thriving businesses, and I'm inviting you to join and learn how you too can enjoy a business that supports you personally, creatively, and financially. We'll talk about the power of intention, how to set your intentions for the year and then put them at the center of decision-making in your business. We'll take a look back at your past year and help identify opportunities for growth and improvements to refresh your business. I'll help you design your ideal year so you can build a business that supports, not competes with, your personal time, vacations, rest, and play. I'll give you the tools to reverse engineer your revenue plan so you have clear strategic goals broken down into bite-sized and manageable pieces. And finally, we'll dial in on a marketing strategy that factors in your personality, budget, and time into the equation. I want you to get in the right mindset so you can achieve the results you want in your interior design business. Get ready to design your year with intention.
Head over to designersoasis.com/plan and register today. Again, that's designersoasis.com/plan and register today. Spots are limited, so don't wait. I can't wait to see you there.
Number 3, mindset shift for major growth is moving from being fragile to being more resilient. All right, now this is a tough one, and I'm really going to be vulnerable here and open up to you about something that I honestly haven't shared a whole lot publicly, but I think it's a really important thing to talk about with resiliency in mind, and building resiliency in business is very powerful. I am not the most thick-skinned human. In fact, I am actually a highly sensitive person, or HSP, which isn't a diagnosis, but it is a type of neurodiversity. And part of the reason I have been so successful with my clients is exactly because I'm highly sensitive. One of the hallmarks of highly sensitive people is that you have a depth of processing. So what that means, depth of processing, means that HSPs typically notice things in more detail. It also means that I have the ability to tap into other people's emotions and feelings very quickly. I can really sense what someone's feeling and what they're going through. This also means that I'm predisposed to being more reactive to situations and having stronger emotional reactions. It also means that I have a lower tolerance to stress, which can lead to burnout. So this being an HSP is kind of my superpower, but I also have to protect my energy, and I have to really work hard to disassociate myself and other people's sort of views or perceptions or opinions of me from how I actually feel. Now, so how does that show up? Well, typically it shows up as a shame storm, right? It means that I'm going to play small. And now, whether you're HSP, identify with being an HSP or not, a highly sensitive person or not, a lot of these things can still ring true. You know, when we operate from a place of fragility, it's really a place of fear. And that is what happens. That's the precursor to playing small, not taking on that big project, not calling that lead back, not pushing back and say, no, I really want this project, right? And that's something that I've really had to push hard on. And I'm still to this day finding, opportunities where and seeing things where like, woof, that was a playing small moment. That was a fear-based decision, right? How else does it show up? Taking forever to write an email because I'm overly concerned with how it's going to come off or what the tone is going to be and how it's going to be perceived. When things go wrong in business, let's say a damage arrives or another thing goes on back order or something wasn't installed the way it was supposed to be, it can really take the wind out of my sails. Whether you're, again, consider yourself to be highly sensitive or not. I get it. If this has happened to you and it resonates for you, it's hard when stuff goes wrong. We just want to move on. We can allow those moments to just take us over and kind of ruin the day. I know whenever I've run into these situations, it's hard not to just let it make me come unraveled. So this is how that fragility shows up if I'm not careful. Think about if you've ever had a proposal rejected from a client. How did you take that? Was it hard to not take it personally, or did you move on or fight back, or how did you respond to that? Making costly mistakes, right? Again, it's hard not to beat yourself up over making a mistake that cost you money, your business money. So how do we move forward or move towards resiliency and away from fragility? There's a question I want you to get in the habit of asking yourself, because this has been really helpful for me, is what are you afraid of happening specifically? Like if I'm struggling to take action or move something along, or I'm hiding under my comforter kind of day, you got to ask yourself, what is it that you're afraid of? Why are you stuck in inaction? getting it out there, whenever you can start to talk about it and shed light on it, once you get it out there, once you say it out loud, call a friend, call a mentor, a sibling, whoever you trust, somebody that you can trust, and talk about it and get it out there. Because once you get it out there and you say it out loud, okay, so now we know what we're working with. Now we know what we're dealing with. And now you can start to shift things in a different direction. The famous psychologist Carl Jung said, keep your shadow in front of you. It can only take you down behind. It's a quote that was popularized by Brene Brown. But what he means by that is when you keep your shadow in front of you, when you speak truth to it, when you say it out loud, what it is that you're afraid of happening, when you say it out loud and you put it in front of you, okay, now you can see it. Now you can, to quote Brene Brown again, I think, speak truth to bullshit, say, okay, I know that I'm afraid I'm not going to get this project because I'm not ready for it. And that's why it's taking me forever to put the proposal together, or to whatever the case may be. So asking yourself, what are you afraid of specifically? Is it rejection? Is it fear of being judged? Is fear of failure? Are you afraid you're not going to succeed? What is it you are afraid of? And get it out there and start talking about it. Because when you do that, then you know what you're dealing with, and you can start to shift and move away from it and into resilience. Remember your superpowers. I strongly believe that intuition is one of my superpowers. Maybe yours is your imagination, or your ability to empathize with others, or your organization skills, or your self-awareness. And keeping those superpowers in the light can also to help you build more resilience. Remember that when mistakes happen, that doesn't define you. That doesn't mean you're no longer a disorganized person. You're like looking for something to point to prove your point, rather than looking at all of the other examples of where you got it right. You know what I mean? I know this has been true for myself, but I sometimes find myself, I'm looking to prove my case subconsciously of like why I'm, not as good as this person or that person or whatever. So keeping those superpowers front and center, and remember those. Ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? You get rejected. Oh, somebody doesn't like something you post. A client doesn't like something you presented. There's so many opportunities to think about, well, what's the worst that could happen? And when you do, you realize, well, the worst thing that could happen is actually not the worst thing that could happen. Let's say you decide, I'm not cut out to be an interior design business owner. And you're going to go back to a different job. Does that make you a failure, or not talented, or not creative? Of course not. Of course not. You could throw the baby out with the bathwater, just to find another metaphor. When I was going through a real hard period of burnout, in the very early stages of running my business, there was a moment where I thought to myself, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I don't think I have what it takes. And thankfully, I had some time to get curious and to dig in. And what I realized was I was trying to do too much myself, and I wasn't letting go. I wasn't willing to outsource and give somebody else who's better at that aspect of running the business control. Let go of the reins and let somebody else do this part, because there's a lot of hats to wear as an interior design business owner. There's a lot. You can't wear them all. You're just not meant to. We have to rely on other people to pick up the areas, where we're not as strong. It's just a fact. Okay. Normalizing mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen. Now, whenever I had a new designer working for me and we got to that stage of procurement, ordering, this happened so many times where I'd have a designer who was responsible for placing some orders on behalf of a client for the business, and they would get frozen with fear. They would get everything in the cart. They would get the purchase order put together. They would everything but the actual transaction. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is this not ordered yet? And what I realized was there was this perpetual fear, especially with like highly custom items, that they were going to get something wrong. They were going to make a mistake. And so I eventually started to have this standard spiel when I was first training somebody on how to go through the procurement process. Like, look, at the end of the day, There's no mistake you could make that isn't fixable. Simply put, no mistake that's not fixable. I don't care if you order an entire custom sectional sofa that costs $20,000 and you get the orientation backwards and it was supposed to be left hand facing versus right hand facing. Like, it's just not, it's not a deal breaker. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's going to die from that happening. Is it going to be a disappointment? Yes. Is it going to maybe cost some money and time to fix and repair the situation? Yes. Are the clients going to be disappointed? Probably. But we can always resell that sectional to someone and get back most, if not all of at least our initial money back. We can always order the right thing and get it in place, right? There's just literally nothing that you could do that's going to be so bad that it takes down the whole thing. There's just not. It's just not that. There's just nothing we do we're not in medicine, we're not in law. I mean, you want to protect yourself, you want to avoid those kind of mistakes. Absolutely. You want to have safeguards in place where things are getting double checked. You want to minimize those. But at the end of the day, if you're so afraid to make a mistake that you are stuck in inaction, something else has to give. You've got to snap out of it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do the thing, make the transaction, and know that it doesn't matter what you do. It's going to be okay. It's just going to be okay. My mom used to always say that to me. Everything's going to be all right. It's fine. We'll figure it out, And just remember, you are the only one that gets to decide if you get to be in this game or not. Nobody else does. You get to walk through this door to be an interior designer, the interior designer you were meant to be. So pull up your seat at the table, put your shoulders back, speak up, even if your voice is shaking, be seen, share your expertise, know that a 10% edge is all you need to be an expert in your field. Start normalizing mistakes. Everything is fixable. Write that shitty first draft. Have a sense of humor. Don't take yourself so seriously. This is what it takes to be a more resilient business owner. Just keep moving. Just keep going. When mistakes happen, stop, get curious, figure out how it happened, put safeguards into place to prevent it from happening again. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. 95% of the things that work in my business work because they didn't work the first time. Okay. How's that? All right. This has been fun. Let's recap. All right. 3 big mindset shifts to help you be a better interior designer, a better interior design business owner, and just generally more successful in the work you're doing. Number 1, moving from passive to being more assertive. Number 2, working from a fixed mindset mentality to having a habit of curiosity. And number 3, moving away from fragility that keeps us stuck in inaction or crumble when what hits the fan, and moving into a place of being more resilient and realizing that there's just not a whole lot that you could do that's going to totally break you, totally shut the whole thing down. It's just not, I'm sure you have business insurance, right? I went too long without having business insurance. And as soon as I did, things felt a little lighter. I'm like, okay, well, at least we're protected, So, all right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I look forward to meeting you back here real soon. Bye for now.
Hey friend, thank you so much for letting me spend a part of this day with you. I'm so passionate about helping designers like you, and I believe in a rising tide, that when one of us does well, we all do better. So if you share this attitude of abundance with me, I want you to do just one little thing. Please share this episode with someone you think might love it. And if you're feeling extra generous today, go ahead and take just 30 seconds to open your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's free for you to do, and it helps me to be able to keep making more episodes and resources for you. However you choose to help, please know I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you soon.